Hi, everyone, and welcome to a COVID Fireside Chat. It's early February, and I am Harris Masket. I'm the Chief Urgent Care Physician at UC Berkeley, and the Bay Area Disc Association is helping me host these so that we can inform you about COVID, all the things that are going on, what's the update, and when can we get back out there and play Ultimate. These are the COVID Fireside Chats, which we have been doing since March 2020. I'll bet you didn't think we'd be doing them this long. All right, well, here we go. What we're going to talk about in this edition is the variants, which are the mutations that keep happening with this virus that unfortunately seem to be making it stronger. Then we're going to talk about the vaccines and immunity and where that's going. And then we'll finally wrap up with questions. Now, this is the first format we've done like this, so you don't have questions, but I did get one question from a friend, so I will answer that one, and I would love your questions during subsequent ones of these. But I will answer where this is going and what you can expect in the coming months. All right, first of all, let's talk about the variants. What are variants? They are mutations in the coronavirus. Now, a year ago when the coronavirus pandemic started, it was actually the original form. It was what they call a wild type, but actually a variant formed soon after. And that variant soon replaced all of the infections all over the world. And by April of 2020, we were actually dealing with a variant. That's very important. We will come back to that. So there was a variant that all of a sudden became the big one. And so when you heard about the outbreaks that were going on in New York and all over this country, the United States, they were actually from the variant form. Well, now there are other variants. There are actually 3 famous variants that you probably heard about, although there are other variants even than those. And first of all, what is a variant? Well, every time the virus is inside you and inside other people, it actually makes a lot of different copies, and some of them are errors. But what it does with those errors, it's sort of creating a little Darwinian survival of the fittest to see if it can create something that might be stronger, that might be deadlier, and that might be able to transmit to other people more quickly, more easily, more readily. So what we're going to talk about when we talk about variants are, is it more transmissible or more contagious? Is it more deadly, unfortunately? And what is the effect of our immunity? And here's why that's important. When the coronavirus started back in roughly January 2020, everyone in the world got the genetic information for that version of coronavirus since they started making vaccines for that version of the coronavirus. Well, now we have vaccines coming out to that version, but that's not the version that's going around. And when a new variant comes, is that vaccine going to work against the new variant? So that's something important that we are going to discuss. Now, there are 3 variants that are really hitting the news, and you need to know about them. They are the United Kingdom variant, they are the South African variant, and they are the Brazilian variant. Now, you also have probably heard about something in LA or California and other variants, and those are happening too. But the 3 big ones that are catching our eye and really concerning are those 3 that I just mentioned. So let's talk a little bit about those with my first slide. Okay, so the 3 variants that I wanted to talk to you about are the United Kingdom variant, the South Africa variant, and the Brazil variant. And we're going to talk about transmission, severity, and then get to immunity. So first, the United Kingdom one. It turns out that this version of SARS-CoV-2 is actually more transmissible. That means the things that you did before that you thought, oh, I'm safe when I do this, I don't get COVID this way. Well, you might get it now because it's actually easier to spread between people. And is it more severe? Unfortunately, yes. Now, you could ask if it was the same severity, like if it was the exact same virus, but it just spread to more people, would that make it more severe because more people will get it? Yes. But it turns out this is a double whammy, the United Kingdom version. It is more easily spread, and if one person gets it, that person is more likely to have a bad outcome. What about the other 2? So there's the South Africa variant. That one is more transmissible, unfortunately, but the jury is out on severity. It's new and they're still doing studies, but even as I speak, they're coming out with studies every day. I'm paying attention to this, but by the time this is out, they may already figured out whether or not it is more severe. The Brazilian variant is also more easily transmissible, and the severity being more more dangerous to us is also unknown at this point. But we have to pay attention to those because that's a significant issue. And then finally, we have to talk about immunity. So when I talk about immunity, there's two ways to be immune, and that's why there's these two little bullet points, vaccine or infection. So let's say you got sick back in January 2020. You got sick to the original version, and now there's all these variants. Does that immunity, does having that illness prevent you getting this illness? Well, there's two problems with that. One, it's been a while. It actually takes a while. Your immune system actually loses some of its ability to fight off an infection over time. We never know how long immunity is going to last with this infection, but a year might be a long time. What about having a vaccine? Does having a vaccine prevent you from getting this new variant? So they've been studying the United Kingdom variant, and the good news is, check, we're okay. The vaccines do protect you from this variant, and previous infection seems to protect you from this variant. So even though it is more severe and even though it's more easily transmissible, if we can spread these vaccines, and if people have already got antibodies, we should be okay. What about the South Africa variant? You notice that little checkbox is a little less robust. It's smaller. The reason is our immunity is a little less robust against the South African variant. What that means is that if the South Africa variant, which is already proven to be present in this country in a few places, starts spreading, that immunity from either a previous infection or from getting the vaccine may not be as good as we hope. We've heard about 95% immunity with some of those vaccines. Well, we may not be quite at 95% anymore. All right, what about the Brazilian? Same thing. It seems that it is, our immunity does help us, but not quite as much as we are hoping for. So what we're going to have to understand here is that, imagine before our immunity was like the 2018 Warriors, where they just weren't going to lose. Well, now take Kevin Durant off that team. We're still really good, but we're maybe not as unbeatable as that previous team. I hope you like the sports analogy. All right, so where is this going? See this lovely chart? I'm hoping this chart makes sense to y'all. This down here is January 2021, and over here is January 2022. So you can see that this is time. And over here is the percentage of the population being immune to COVID, okay? And they think that herd immunity, meaning when we're all starting to be safe again and love life again, is somewhere up here above 70%. Well, they suspect that this purple bar is all of the infections people have had. And so if you are immune because you've had an infection, then that creates immunity in around, right now they say 20, maybe 30% of the population. But this blue line is vaccines. And as we get immunity from vaccines, you add those two. Why do you add those two? Because you can be immune from either a vaccine or from an infection. It doesn't really matter as long as you're immune. And when the combined immunity approaches 70%, and it shows by this thing, it's July, hey, we're happy. The problem with this is that this is hopeful. This is hopeful in that we hope that this purple actually stays as high as it is. There is some evidence that actually immunity may not last this long, and this purple bar may actually start dropping lower and lower, which means this blue bar is going to have to go up higher and higher, which means more people need vaccines. Okay, so where is this all going? We need immunity. Unfortunately, there are no wonderful antiviral medications. There is no monoclonal antibody that is going to drastically change this pandemic. Immunity is going to change it, and our behaviors are going to change it. And by immunity, I mean vaccines. And our behaviors, you know what I mean: distancing, doing the right things, and of course, wearing masks. Okay, now, why do I say that? Why do I say immunity is the way we're going to get through this, in addition to those behavioral things? Well, we would like to think that if we get this infection or if we get a vaccine, we are immune forever. But unfortunately, there was a terrible incident that happened in Brazil where, and you all probably heard about it, they had an outbreak just like many other places. And in the late spring, early summer, so many people in this certain region in the Amazon were sick that by the fall, when they tested a sample population there for antibodies, they found antibodies in 70% of the population. What does that mean? That means ding ding, herd immunity, right? Yes, it does. They did reach that point where you would think they have herd immunity and they are safe from future infections. But unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that in January, just a few months later, they have another huge outbreak in that same area. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that immunity doesn't last a year? Maybe. Does that mean that it's the variant, the Brazilian variant, that is causing this, and the people who were immune before are no longer immune to this variant? That's possible. It's quite likely that the immunity to the infection doesn't last as long as we'd like. 6 months seems reasonable. A year might be long for it. We just don't know, and everyone will probably be a little bit different. We think that the immunity to the vaccines might be longer lasting. Some of the information that came out of the vaccine trials suggests that if we get vaccines, we might have a better immunity than actually getting the infection, which is wonderful because getting the infection is not a good idea. All right, so why do I tell you this about Brazil? Because the important point is we need to get more people vaccines than we do need to get this infection. The better idea for everyone in this whole planet is to get a vaccine, okay? And if we all start getting vaccines, and if we can have a huge worldwide push, we can beat back these variants and we can start having things look a lot better. Now, why do I say that about beating back the variants? Well, we're sort of in a troublesome situation where there's variants coming in all these different directions and so many people have the illness. Now, the fewer people have the illness, the fewer variations there will be. The more people are around, the more possible variations that this virus can make. But when the infections go down, there will be fewer opportunities for this virus to mutate. And then we can get ahead of things, and then we can come up with more vaccines to meet this. Okay, so I keep talking about vaccines. If you can get a vaccine, and I know that not everyone can or not everyone's eligible, but if you can get a vaccine, please do. I think they're safe. They were formulated really well for us, and I think the studies were really good, and I've already gotten mine, and I really want to support everyone doing that. Okay, now a question that came up was, what if I have a family member, a loved one, who got the vaccine? Can they come into my house now and hug me? The short answer is no. Now why? The vaccine trials that I just said were wonderful and safe did not look at transmissibility as a thing that they were going to be stopping. Why did they do that? Well, that, as you remember from one of my COVID talks back in the fall, that would have taken a lot more money, a lot more time, and a lot more people. It's a harder thing to do to figure out transmission. What the vaccines did was they looked at, can we prevent infection and can we prevent severe infection? And they do that. They do that really well. But we don't know about transmission. So until we get on the other side of this, I urge you, please treat everyone the same, vaccine or not. Wear your masks, stay outdoors with each other, and keep the distance. Okay? This next few months are obviously a big push. We really need to get the numbers of infections down. We need to get the number of vaccines up. We don't know exactly where this is going, so all of your behaviors really do matter. And I can tell you, just by the fact that you are watching this, you are a leader in the world, you're a leader in your community. You actually think, you actually listen to facts and chew on them and decide what is right and what makes sense. I appreciate that you do that. The world does. Please continue to be a leader. Please share this talk with other people. And please send me your questions. My wonderful assistant at Bay Area Disc Association, Jesse White, is posting somewhere on this page how you can send questions in, and we will answer them next time we have another one of these COVID Fireside Chats. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks for all that you're doing. Take care.